Okay, so let me take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Shashwata Ghosh. Uh, he's a faculty in Institute of Development Studies, Calcutta, and his specialization is in the area of public health and demography. He has been associated with different institutes before, and with a Gates Foundation, for instance, where he's been the health specialist. So when I thought of someone whom I could invite to discuss the issues of mortality and in India, he was the first person about who came to my mind. So anyway, I won't take too much of your time. I think you are ready, so let's start.
So, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, you're showing. Yeah, now it's okay.
Is this fine?
Yeah, this is fine. But yes, this is fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie, for inviting me to give this opportunity to give some important topics on the mortality measurement and its trend in India. Let me first, and then I will go to the issues of this availability of the data, what are the sources of the data and all these things. First, I will discuss the mortality measurements and its trends. Let me first introduce the concept and definition of the mortality. So the study of mortality or the risk of dying or death is very important for the public health administration, projection of future population, developing plans for housing and educational facilities, managing social security programs, life insurance policies, etc. Now, any study of mortality reduces ultimately to ascertaining the risk of death. Please, this is a very important term, risk of death or risk of dying for different segments of a population characterized by certain characteristics like age, sex, place of residence, occupation, religion, caste, whatever may be the attribute of a population group or population segment. Now come to various definitions. For example, we define crude death rate. Now, crude death rate or CDR, it is the total number of deaths in a particular period and in a particular area, geographic area by the total media population of that particular time and of that particular period and of that particular place geography. And we usually actually multiply it by 1,000. Now, say for example, now India's crude death rate is 6.2 or 6.5, whatever. Now, that means that out of 1,000 population, population, the total number of death in a year means the year may be a calendar year or it may be January to December or it may be April to March, whatever you take. In a particular calendar year, the total number of death is 6.5 out of 1,000 population. Now, this is a very simple kind of actually measurement. One can find the annual average of CDR of say 3 period of time, say D1 divided by P1 plus D2 divided by P2 plus D3 divided by P3 into 1,000 or D1 plus D2 plus D3 divided by P1, P2 plus P3. Now, whatever the measure you can take. Now, the thing is that I mean, why it is a crude measure? Can anybody give some insight from you? Why it is a crude? Why the term crude is actually there?
Sir, does it relate to availability or inavailability of data?
No, not really. Crude. Crude means very
Sir,
simplistic. Anybody else?
sir, maybe because it does not take into consideration the composition of the population or
Exactly, exactly.
other
That is
things.
the point. I mean, the composition of the population and the age group. Age, sex, all these composition are not included here. I mean, in a population, in a 1,000 population, if the total number of aged persons is more, then there is actually likely that high chances of higher number of deaths. But if in a particular population, if it is a young population, say 0 to 14 years or 0 to 20 years population is very high, then the likelihood of death is low. So for that reason, it is a crude measure. So it actually incorporates all ages, all sexes, and all other socioeconomic attributes. These age and sex are demographic demographic attribute, but also there are other things like as I told, that the education, maybe caste, maybe religion, maybe occupation, and all these things. So for that reason, it is a crude measure. So for that reason, it should not be used as a comparison between two countries, or say two states. Suppose you should not compare the crude rate of Kerala and crude rate of Bihar, because Bihar has actually more young population compared to actually Kerala. So crude rate is will not give the actual will not give a actual representation of the reality. Now, to actually refinement, for the refinement purpose, we calculate a specific death rates. That is the ASDR. So, if NDX, or N means here the number of years, and age is the actual age. So X and X plus N. So NDX represent is the number of deaths between ages X and X plus N. And NPX is the average number of persons between ages X and X plus N. Then NMX, or that a specific death rate of that particular age group, is equal to NDX divided by NPX into 1,000. So for example, say for 0 to 4 years population, total number of death occurred in that particular 0 to 4 years age group in a particular period and in a particular geography, divided by mid-year population of that particular age group, that is 0 to 4 years in a particular period and in a particular geography. So for that reason, this is some kind of refinement. You are actually defining the death rate by various age groups, and then CDR can be expressed as the weighted mean of the ASDRs, where the weights are the proportion of total population at that age or age group. That is D divided by P is equal to summation of you can say that DA divided by PA into PA. PA is the proportion of that particular age group to the total population, divided by P is equal to summation of ASDR of A and into PA by P. That is the proportion of that particular age group to the total population. So in this way, we can somewhat standardize the crude death rate. So is this clear to everybody?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Okay. So now, I would like to see one very simple graphical representation from where you can understand how this crude death rate actually this our mortality transition have taken place. Now there are two things to actually observe here. One is level and another is trend. So if you see in the 1971, the level was high for all the states, and if you see the now trend, now everybody is coming to converge. So first in 1971 there was a high degree of divergence. Now it has the lowest in case of say Tamil Nadu or not Tamil Nadu, I think it is Kerala. Yeah, Kerala, and it was highest in case of Uttar Pradesh. So now if you see that everybody is coming to a convergence kind of thing, there is a decline, and however the decline is not smooth enough. So I mean, for example, in 1973 there was some increase for all the states, and then it again declined, and then it is again gone up, and last hike we can see in 1985 or so for some of the states, not for the all, but and then after that it is more or less, particularly from 1990s, you can see that there is a more or less unilinear kind of change. I mean, there is a clear convergence. So one is level, another is trend. So the level was high, but now the level is low, and trend is there is a clear sense of convergence across the states. Now let me also show you some just a minute, I will show you the a specific death rate kind of thing graph. Where is that? Yeah. Now you can see that a specific death rate. Now a specific death rate, this is for a particular year, probably in 2018, probably. I don't remember. Now in this case you can find, and that is for a overall India kind of thing, or whatever may be the case. Now you can see that that in the age group 0 to 4 it is somewhat higher, and from 5 to 9 up to 40, up to say 25 to 29 is very low. So for that reason, this 5 to 9 and up to say age 30, the death rate among the young population is really very low, and then it started increasing somewhat, but after age 60 there is a unilinear increase, when particularly as you go up, say from 70 to 74 and 75 to 79, 80 to 84 and 85 plus, there is a huge increase in the death. So it is very natural that the older population will die. So and also you can see that here I have also given it by actually gender, so that you can see that the what is the gender gap in the specific death rates. Now the thing is that the gender gap is very minimum up to say age 45 to 49, and as you go up, the males are more likely to die more compared to the females. So there is an advantage after say certain after a certain age group, say from 50 onwards, that the likelihood of death among male increases compared to the females. This is an graphical representation of the previous data, you can see it very clearly that initially both were something like high, and then it declined, and then after say age 35 to 39 or 40 to 44, it started increasing, and the increase was more among male compared to females. So you probably have find if you gone through the newspaper actually recently after release of 2019-21 NFHS data, there was a news that that the sex ratio in India has improved. I mean, improved for female. I mean, there are more number of females than males in the overall population. Say it was, I think, 1048 female out of 1000 males. But and you can understand in this case that why it is happening. So after a certain age, the female have started living actually longer than actually males. For that reason, the death rate of males are higher, while the specific death rates of after attaining a certain age, it actually declined, and that is the additional sex ratio you are getting because of the likelihood of survival among the females after attaining age 50 or age 60 has increased significantly. So this is the story why the sex ratio, overall sex ratio is in favor of females. Now coming back to the definitions, yeah. Another very important thing is that infant mortality rate. Now, infant mortality rate, why it is significant for a population? Anybody has any idea?
It is a indication of the healthcare infrastructure of the country and the mother's health and probably education too.
Right. That is one point, and another significant point is that this actually gives you the overall level of socioeconomic development of a particular population or of a particular country, and for that reason it is taken as one of the indicator to compute Human Development Index. Have you heard of Human Development Index?
Yes, sir.
Now, two health indicators are there. What are those two? One is infant mortality rate, and still there is another component of health in that particular index.
So life expectancy at birth.
Life expectancy at birth. Very good. So, and for that reason, these two actually gives you a fair idea regarding the status of human development of a country or of a state. So for that reason, infant mortality rate is very important indicator. Now, how we actually measure it? I mean, it is actually defined as the risk of dying during the first year of life or before completion of the first year of life. Say 1 to 12 months, or in demography, we speak about 0 to 11 months. 0 months means the month of birth, and completion of 11 months means it is completion of the 1 year. So, so IMR is defined as the D0. 0 means at the 0 year, or somebody can say it is a first year, but in demography we specifically say it is a 0 year of life. So D0 divided by B means total number of birth into 1000, and that is also in a particular area I mean, in a particular geography, in a particular population group, and in a particular year. Year means it is 12 months, as we have defined earlier, that it may be 1st January to 31st December, or it may be 1st April to 31st March, whatever the thing. So and D0 denotes the number of deaths of infant during a year, and B denotes the total number of live birth. Now, in demography, we clearly distinguish live birth and stillbirth. Now, live birth is an event of birth, but stillbirth, I mean those who born as death, that is not an event of birth, that is an event of death. Though we termed it a stillbirth, but it is an event of death. Live birth means where there is any sign of life of that particular baby, of a particular baby. That, I mean, he or she may survive 30 seconds or 1 minute, but he or she was born alive. I mean, there was any sign of birth. So it is a, we call it as a live birth. So for that reason, this term we specifically write live, L-I-V, live. So, and it is denote, I mean, so it is D0 divided by total number of live births into 1000. So if I say India's IMR is 30, how you will interpret it?
Sir, so 30 live births in a year.
30 infant deaths out of 1000 live births. Are you getting my point?
Sir, could you repeat that?
IMR of India is 30. That means the number of infant deaths in a year is 30 out of 1000 live births. So it is the D divided by B into 1000. So 1000 live birth, in 1000 live birth, how many deaths have taken place among infants in a particular year? Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay. Now, do you think it is an accurate measure? Now, first of all, do you think it is a rate? What do you think? It is a rate? How you define rate? What is the difference between rate and ratio?
Sir, so there won't be any units for a ratio.
There won't be any unit for ratio. So that means the event would be the same, right?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me whether death and birth are same event. Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. So if I say that, I mean, now in this definition, total number of deaths out of 1000 live births. So events are the events same?
No, sir.
No. So actually we should have called it as a infant mortality ratio, not rate actually. Isn't it? What do you think?
Yes, sir. I think a ratio would be more appropriate.
ratio would be more appropriate. But I mean, we make mistakes while starting something. So it was termed initially as infant mortality rate, and that was continued, and we have accepted it as a rate. Okay, so for that reason we call it infant mortality rate, but it is actually representing some kind of ratio, not exactly rate. Okay, so and another thing is that in a year, for some particular reason, there may be ups and downs of deaths, so it is it is actually better not to take it as a single year kind of thing. Suppose we should not say, suppose now West Bengal's IMR is 20. Okay, so there are 20 deaths, 20 infant deaths in a 1,000 live births in a year. Okay, now if it next year it is say 21 or 22, can we say that infant mortality rate has increased in West Bengal? What do you think? Or if the in 2022 it declined to say 19 or 18, can we say that infant mortality rate has declined in West Bengal in a year?
No, sir, we cannot tell it for sure.
Why?
So, because there might be some reasons like a disease or something which has occurred, which has caused greater number of deaths.
Right. So there can be random fluctuations year to year, right?
Yes, sir.
So for that reason, it is preferable that we should take an average of 3 years, or either simple or some kind of moving average. So that will give more precise kind of. I mean, if you are calculating a trend, of IMR, so one should take to smooth the data, one should take 3 years simple average or 3 years moving average kind of thing, which will give you more better estimate and more robust trend kind of thing. So this is one should keep in mind that this I mean, one should take this average kind of thing before concluding that whether it is increased or whether it has decreased. And also one should also incorporate the confidence interval, because I mean this the value what I have told you, say 20 may lie between 18 and 22 or something like that. So if it increased to 22, that's still in the limit, and if it declined to 18, it is still in the limit. So actually it has not increased, or neither it has increased nor it has decreased. So this thing one should keep in mind before going for any kind of interpretation for the trend or trend estimation kind of thing. So always take the averages to avoid any kind of this random fluctuation in the data. So this is about the infant mortality rate. And another, now I would like to show you the trend in infant mortality rate. Though I have, yeah, you can see that I have taken this average kind of thing, 71, 73, 75, 77, 79, all these are this average kind of thing. So in that case, you can get some kind of actually robust kind of trend. Now, here you can see the same story like crude death rate. One is level, another is trend. Now in 1971 kind of thing, the level was higher for every state. Even in case of Kerala, it was more than 50. So there were in 71 there were more than 50 or 55 deaths of infant out of 1,000 live births, which was as high as 170 for Uttar Pradesh. Okay, now all have started actually declining, and there was again random kind of fluctuation. And then after say from 1991, you can say there is a secular kind of trend, a secular kind of decline, more or less, and again there is a convergence. Ultimately, all the states are going to converge, but not that, I mean, it has not converged fully like your crude death rate, but there are signs of convergence. So so now the values are basically lie between say 12 to up to say 50, yeah, 50 or 52, whatever the thing. So in UP probably, in UP it is 50, or in case of Bihar probably it is in Bihar I think it is 35 or so, yeah, 32 or 33, something like that. So I mean, so there is a clear sense of actually convergence. So this is the trend of infant mortality. Now let me come into another thing, that is the under 5 mortality rate. So infant and then under 5. The under 5 mortality is the probability or the likelihood or the risk, whatever you say, which we define as 5Q0. When Q means the likelihood of death between age 0 and 5. That a child born in a specific year or time period will die before reaching the age of 5, subject to current specific mortality rates. It is expressed as a rate per 1,000 live births. So this is how we define the under 5 mortality rate. Now this under 5 mortality rate can be divided into many things. For example, 0 to 1 is your infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate can further subdivided as neonatal mortality rate, which is actually taken place between the day of birth, I mean the 0th day to 28, before completion of 28 days, 28 days or the 4 weeks. That is called neonatal death. And then there is a post neonatal death, which is the 1 month to up to completion of the 11th year, 11 month. So that is called the post neonatal. And once it crossed 1 year, then the childhood phase actually comes. So then it is a child period. That is the 12 to 59 months. So it is a child. So one of these neonatal, then you have post neonatal, and neonatal and post neonatal combined into infant, and after infancy there is a childhood. Childhood is your 12 months to 59 months. So, and this 0 to up to 59 months is actually the under 5 mortality. So now how we define this neonatal mortality rate? That is the death before 1 month, death occurred before reaching 1 month of birth, or more precisely 28 days divided by total number of births into 1000. Then you have the postnatal mortality rate, which is the number of death occur between first month and 11 months divided by total number of births in 2000. So in this way you can subdivide IMR into two actually phases. One is neonatal mortality rate, another is postnatal mortality rate. Now there is also another concept which is called the fetal death ratio. So, what is that? Total number of fetal deaths. Fetal deaths means death. I mean all fetal death losses occurring after 28 weeks of pregnancy are taken as the late fetal deaths or the stillbirth. And so the fetal loss can be after the once a woman conceives up to the birth of the child is the fetus. So any death occur during that period is the fetal death. So total number of fetal death divided by total number of live births still into 1000 is your fetal death ratio. So in this case we are we have termed it as ratio. So these are so all fetal losses occurring after 28 weeks of pregnancy are taken to be late fetal deaths or stillbirths. So after 28 weeks it comes the stillbirths. Now fetal losses include induced abortion, spontaneous abortion as well as stillbirths. So all the losses occurring during the within the womb actually incorporated in this case. Now one is spontaneous abortion, that the fetus automatically or the spontaneously aborted from the uterus. Now induced abortion is actually involuntarily. I mean somebody has decided to abort this particular pregnancy, that is called induced abortion. And also there is the event of stillbirth, that is the as I told you earlier that there was no sign of life in that particular baby. So these are the three things. Now fetal death rate is defined as the total number of fetus divided by total number of fetus plus total number of births, still into 1000. So the proportion of pregnancies which fail to result in live birth, that is the that indicates the proportion of pregnancies which fail to result in live birth. Then there is another definition which is called perinatal mortality rate. It is the infant death under 1 week plus total number of late fetal deaths together divided by total number of births into 1000. So this is called the perinatal period. Perinatal period is the late fetal period plus the after the birth of the infant but death within 1 week. So this is called the perinatal period, or the perinatal mortality rate is defined as the infant deaths under 1 week plus late fetal deaths divided by total number of births into 1000. So any problem in understanding these definitions?
Sir,
Yeah, please.
sir, for the fetuses which die before 28 weeks, are those included in the number of fetal deaths?
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
All the deaths occurring in the womb or in the uterus are the fetal losses.
Okay, sir.
Okay, any other question or any other query? Okay, so now this is a trend of the child mortality rate for the or the CMR. Now, in this case also you can see that there was a level and trend, what I have told you, the similar kind of thing. There is a, there was, level was high, and also there was divergence between the states. Now, after say 2010 or something, there was a clear sense of convergence, but now what is the thing is, it is actually plateauing. I mean, different states are actually plateaued at different levels. So there are still differences in the levels. You can find it. So this is the trend of child mortality rate. This I have told you. Now come to life expectancy at birth. This is, as I told you, that this is also one of the very important concept, as it is also one of the indicator of human development, and also considered in constructing the Human Development Index across countries. So life expectancy can be defined as the average number of years of life which a cohort of newborn babies, that is those born in the same year, may be expected to live if they are subjected to the risk of death at each age according to the age-specific death rates prevailing in the country at the time to which the measure refers. So try to understand the definition. In common parlance, we say, if you say in layman's language, আমি ক্লাসে আছি, পরে ফোন করব, সরি। If we say in very common parlance, or say layman's language, we can say that is the expected year of life when a child born in a particular year. But if you define it correctly, then you have to write it in this way, that the average number of years of life which a cohort of newborn babies, that is those born in the same year, may be expected to live if they are subjected to risk of death at each age according to the specific death rate prevailing in the country. Suppose for now, say in 2020 or 2021, if the total number of a cohort of the newborn babies, they have born in the year of 2020, how much they are expected to live? They are subjected to risk of death at each age after say 2021, 2022, 2023, and so on and so forth, according to the specific death rate prevailing in the country at this 2020. Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
So this is the definition, that one thing you have to remember, that according to the specific death rate prevailing in the country or the state, whatever, at the time to which the measure refers. So this is how we technically or sophisticatedly define life expectancy at birth. Now it is calculated from life table. Life table, I am not going into details. That is a more technical type of thing, that there is a hypothetical cohort of babies who have born now, and then they are subjected to death at each and every year, and from that you can find the life expectancy at birth. Now, life table combines the mortality experience of a population of different ages in a single statistical model. It describes the life history of a hypothetical group or a cohort of people as it is depleted gradually by death. So the depletion of, one can enter into the population by birth and one can get out of that population by death. So that is one kind of stationary kind of model, stationary kind of technique demographers apply to construct life table, and from life table one can estimate the life expectancy at birth. So now life expectancy is a very important measure because it gives you the, again, like IMR, it gives you the status of that particular population. Status of that particular population, I mean the status or the level of socioeconomic development of that particular population. Now, tell me, now in case of COVID, there was no doubt excess number of deaths in the country and in the whole world as such. Now, do you think that it can affect, or it can amounts to decline of the life expectancy at birth? What do you think?
Sir, it will affect the life expectancy at birth, but isn't this a very exclusive case?
Yeah, it is a exclusive case. Now, why I
Sir.
am saying, yeah, please.
Sir, also does it not violate that point? Like age-specific death is prevailing at the time of the measure. So COVID may not be a permanent phenomena. So the life tables are not affected permanently. So will it affect life expectancy perpetually? Like it might affect for a short while, but over a longer.
Exactly. So, I mean, why I am actually referring to it, because if you go back to 100 years, when this influenza epidemic or the Spanish flu, you have heard of, right?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
in during the period, say 1970 to 17 to 1922 or 23, there was a period of like this COVID. It took 5 times or 10 times more than the COVID at that point of time, because there was no development of the vaccination or the hygiene or other actually safety, public health safety measures, no vaccine, nothing. So it took a very, very heavy toll, yeah, in India as well as in several parts of the world. And what happened between, if you go back to the old data, data of 100 years back, that is the only period, 1911 and 1921, when India's growth rate, population growth rate was negative, and life expectancy declined by 10 years. In 1911, the life expectancy was 31 years at that point, because the people did not live much. It came down to 21 years in 2021. 10 years. But again, after 10 years, in 1931, it again regained up to again 31 years. So it declined by 10 years, again enhanced by 10 years, just after the influenza epidemic. And then from that, there is a secular increase in the life expectancy at birth. Though slowly, but it has increased a lot. So for that reason, I am actually referring to that point that whether COVID, even if uh, even if we found the life expectancy has declined for a certain period or certain kind of thing, it will again regain after say 5 or 6 years when the situation will become normal. And also another example I would like to give you, in various places, particularly in South Zimbabwe and South Africa, in these two states, in these two countries, this life expectancy was also declined during early say around early 2000 or something, because of the huge toll taken by the HIV/AIDS. Okay, and again it has actually regained now. So there are ups and downs. So for that reason, the life expectancy, even if it declined, it will actually regain, I mean, very steadily after some time. So now let me show you that how in India this life expectancy birth has increased. I have given only from 1970 to 75 to up to 2018. Now you can see that again there are issues, the two issues, level and trend. Now you can see that the life expectancy in Bihar, UP, all these states were very low, just about more than something like 42 years or something, in between 70 to 75. While it was at that point of time, it was something like 62 or 63 in case of Kerala, and as well as in Tamil Nadu also it was below 60, but yeah, something like 58 or something. So now in every state it has actually increased, and also there is a sign of convergence among the states. In Kerala, it has already reached 75 years, and in case of other states also, it has crossed more than 65 years minimum. So now the people who born today would expected to live, in case of India, what is the line for India? Line for India is probably the red, this one, probably this one. So yeah, it is more or less 71 years or something, something like that. So life expectancy at birth has also improved across the state very steadily. Now, yeah, this is by gender. Now it is you can we have just given for 1991 and 95 and 2014-15. You can see that this in 2000 total, in 1991 it was 60.3, and in 2014 to 18 it was about 69.4. Now for male it was 59.7, and it has increased to 68, and for female it was 61, which increased to around 71. So all over there was actually increase, and increase was somewhat more among female compared to male. So for that reason, again, the coming to the issue of the sex ratio. So you need to understand that where the woman lives more. Women lives more after crossing a certain age, that is age 50 or something like that, and then they started living more. So for that reason, if you see the life expectancy of all those ages, also say life expectancy at age 60. Now, those who have already reached at age 60, how many years more they are expected to live? That is the life expectancy of 60. and so on and so forth. You can go on actually defining life expectancy at various ages. If you see 50 or more cases, it is always higher for the females compared to the males. So for that reason, it was something like that. But before, say, 1990s, I mean, say in 70s, in 80s, I have not given the data here. In 1970s, 60s, 70s, all those years, female life expectancy was less compared to males. Do you have any idea why it would have been like that?
Sir, could you repeat the time period?
In 1960s, 70s, something like that. Say up to in between 50s and 80s, if I say very simplistically. Overall life expectancy at birth among male was higher compared to the female. And then after that, female started, I mean, the gain was for females after late 80s. Why it was so?
Sir, maybe because of social factors, they were not like open to like taking health treatment, and moreover, like factors like sanitation led to health issues among women.
Yeah, 2 points can be accepted, but there are more important points other than that. Anybody else?
Sir, to highlight on the same point, like healthcare, as healthcare wasn't very widely available, the childbirth used to lead to a lot of deaths.
Exactly. That is called maternal mortality.
Yes, the maternal mortality rate was very
My maternal mortality ratio, that I will come, how one can define it. Maternal mortality took a very heavy toll during that particular period of time. So for that reason, there was excess death among females in the reproductive period. The reproductive period generally we define between age 15 to 49. 15 to 49. So there were excess death among female. There are 2 points. One is that the fertility rate was high during that point of time. I mean, one woman generally give birth to 5 to 6 children, and while giving birth to 5 to 6 children, a lot of women, I mean, it was probably, as I remember, it was more than 700 out of 100,000 live births. So there was a excess female death during those years, and which actually affects severely to the life expectancy of the woman. And see, after this health infrastructure and all the general socio-economic development and all these things, but fertility rate started coming down from early 80s or something like that. And at the same time, the maternal mortality, and at the same time, there was availability of the healthcare, and the higher number of deliveries was taken place in the institutions. So the maternal mortality started declining, and longevity among the female has increased also significantly after 1980s. Now in case of India, the maternal mortality has already come down less than 100. Our Millennium Development Goal was probably to reach 100 by year 2020 or something. But it is now, I think, 109 or less than 100 even. I not exactly remember, but it has come down significantly. So for that reason, the gain in the life expectancy has observed among the female after 1980s and particularly after 1990s. And also there was also a female neglect and general kind of female neglect, and also there was incidences of infanticide kind of thing in the earlier era. That has also actually significantly came down. That was also added to this. But main factor, I would say, that it is the decline of the maternal mortality. Okay. Now, maternal mortality, I will just forget to mention how we define a maternal mortality. Maternal mortality, again, it is a ratio, not rate. Maternal mortality ratio. Maternal mortality ratio is defined as the total number of deaths during the maternal period. What is maternal period? Maternal period is your conception to not only up to the live birth, but also the but also the postpartum period up to 42 days. That is 42 days means 42 days amounts to how many weeks? 6 weeks, right?
Yes, sir.
So total this period, I mean the starting of the conception and then there is a delivery, and then up to the 6 weeks of the delivery. This total period is called the maternal period. So any death occurred due to maternal causes. If due to maternal causes, between these two periods divided by total number of live births during that particular period or something into 100,000. So in this case, we take 100,000. So out of 100,000 live birth or 1 lakh live birth, how many mothers have died due to maternal causes during maternal period? Now, if some during the pregnancy, if some woman met a motor accident, and his and her death is due to the motor accidents, it will not be counted as a maternal mortality. It is accidental death. So the cause has to be related to the pregnancy, childbirth, and that particular postpartum period. So that any kind of death due to this pregnancy related causes, there may be n number of causes like your excess bleeding, prolapse, then you have this there are at the time of birth there is generally the excess bleeding kind of things happen. There are so many terminologies actually. So this is how we define maternal mortality ratio, and we termed it as a ratio, not rate. Maternal mortality ratio. So is this clear how we define maternal mortality ratio?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now come to briefly the sources of the socioeconomic data from where we get this kind of this death rate, birth rate, infant mortality rate, sex ratio, and all those stuff. So there are 4 things. One is your civil registration system, or we call CRS. Another is sample registration system, which we call SRS. And there are periodic census, which have started from 1872 initially, and then from 1881 period every 10 years. But this year there is a break due to COVID. Still 2021 data we that census has not yet taken place. It is going to take place in this year, and there are various kind of sample surveys. All these are sources of data of this indicators. Now, civil registration system is it may be defined as a unified process of continuous, permanent, and compulsory recording of the vital events. Vital events means vital events in demography are actually 3 events: birth, marriage, and death. These 3 events are vital events, and characteristics thereof as per the legal requirement in the country. Here now you need the birth certificate, you need the death certificate, you need the marriage certificate. So for that reason, it is a legal requirement, and those are legal documents, and it is a unified process. Now in India we have the Registration of Birth and Death Act in 1969, which provides for the compulsory registration of births and deaths for every citizen in the country, and provided a common framework for the putting in place a sound system of registration of birth and deaths in the country. However, and the 2 main uses are actually personal legal documents, as I mentioned, and also the data generated through a complete and up-to-date system needed for the socio-economic planning and evaluate the public schemes and actually programs. So now I am not going into this much of details. I will share the slide, you can read it. Now the thing is that it is away from completeness. I mean, now it has improved. Now the birth registration particularly has improved, and it has crossed more than 90%. But death registration is still low. I mean, I have given the data of earlier years. Now death registration has become more than 75%, and your birth registration is more than 90%. And there are states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, where it is 100%. In case of West Bengal also, it is probably 99.5% or something like that, what I have seen in the latest data. Now, why death registration is not that good? Anybody has any clue?
Sir, due to extensive documentation required for the deceased family.
That is one cause. And also in the village area, if you go to the particularly our Hindi heartland states, in the village area, you actually, people do not need that document. I mean, all these things are so much prevalent in, oral contracts are so much prevalent in those states. There was actually hardly not that much it is required still. I mean, still it is not that required in those states because if for this legal hair and all those things. And also there was less insurance coverage to the rural people, that after the death, that I mean the money from the insurance and all these things they will get. So it is generally required for the legal purpose, but in case of the Hindi heartland villages, the oral contract are the actually legal documents. So in this, for that reason, it has not crossed 75% in case of Bihar as well as Uttar Pradesh. But but since the birth certificate is now must in for education to get into school, for that reason it has increased significantly in all the states. Sorry. So because of this poor coverage of CRS, the Register General of India, the RGI, they thought another system should be in place. So for that reason, they have devised, they have actually put in place another system which is called the sample registration system, and started in 1964-65 on a pilot basis and full scale from 1969 to 70. Now, since then, SRS has been provided data on a regular basis. So the slides, the graphs of which I have shown to you, all are based on this SRS data. Now, what is that? Now, it has advantages. What advantage? It has a dual record system. What is dual record system? One is the continuous enumeration of births and deaths in a sample of village or the urban blocks by a resident part-time enumerator, and an independent 6-monthly retrospective survey by full-time supervisor. Now, so one event, suppose you are living in the area of, say, Baliganj. Now in Baliganj, there is a part-time enumerator, generally school teacher or primary school teacher or the health worker of that particular area who knows the area better. So he or she is a part-time enumerator who will visit each home in each every fortnight or every month, and record any vital event, whether it has taken place or not. Any kind of vital event. That means any birth has taken place, then the or any death has taken place, or any marriage has taken place during that particular period. Now, after collection of 6 monthly actually data, one independent person from the state headquarter or state headquarter will also go to that particular area, and independently he or she will collect data of that particular area on the event of these 3 vital events happened during last 6 months. And both these data obtained from both these sources are matched. The unmatched and partially matched events are re-verified in the field. I mean, both will go to that particular household where there was some kind of misreporting or error kind of thing, to get an unduplicated counts of the correct events. So it has advantages of unduplicated counts or the elimination of the error, and quantitative assessment of the sources of distortion in 2 sets of records, making it self-evaluating technique. So it is a self-evaluating technique. Two persons are collecting data of a same area. One collect is regularly, another person 6 monthly period. So for that reason, the whatever data they collect, we found it is a very good system, and the percentage of error is very less. I mean, plus minus 5% kind of thing. So this is the sample registration system. Now, revision of the sampling frame takes every census year. While changing the sample, modification in the sampling design, wider representation of the population, overcoming limitation in the existing scheme, all are taken into account. For example, the total sampling unit was 3,722 in 1969 and 70 when it was started, which increased to more than double. I mean, and right now, probably in 2018, it was more than 10,000 units are there. So from 1999, survey of causes of death, actually, I mean, the verbal autopsy is another thing to how to measure the causes of death. So that is also actually merged with the SRS. Now, what is verbal autopsy? That verbal autopsy is that the surveyor, this particular guy that who actually lives in that particular area, and visit periodically in every fortnight or every 1 month in all the households, he or she will note the exact, event of death, how the death has taken place, whether there was any kind of previous ailments was there, or how that death has taken place. One account of the death actually, and age, sex, all those particulars of the deceased person, and how the event of death has taken place. This process is called verbal autopsy. I mean that you are asking to the nearest kin or the nearest family member who has witnessed that death, taking an account of the death of that particular person, and then arrive at a conclusion about the cause of death. Are you getting my point?
Sir, could you repeat this last point?
Suppose one death has taken place in a particular household in say X area, and that X area is under the sampling frame of SRS. So that part-time enumerator, who is knowledgeable of that particular area and visit each and every household of that sample frame, of that particular sampling frame, each and every fortnight or each and every month, he or she will ask to the nearest kin who has witnessed that particular death, take an account of the death, that how the death has taken place, whether there was any kind of previous illnesses, what was that particular illness, and how the death has taken place. So this is an account kind of thing, and then after submission of the document, 3-member or 5-member team of doctors will ascertain the cause of death from that particular account. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this technique is called verbal autopsy technique. Verbal means account kind of thing, and autopsy means you are doing the postmortem of that death through the account which you are getting from the nearest kin who has witnessed that death very closely. So for that reason it is called verbal autopsy. So, and there was the baseline survey of sample units to obtain usual resident population of the sample areas after changing the sampling frame, and help from various personal sources to complete the netting, so that every household is covered in that particular sampling frame. Now, this is all about the SRS. Now, I am not going to details of the census. There is a big history of census, when it started in the British period, or even going back to Vedic period. There was the population count and all those things. Even in Kautilya's Arthashastra, Aini Akbari also talks about the population count for taxation, industry, wealth, etc. And census actually begins in 1800, when the England had actually began its census, and then in India various cities were enumerated in various times, but the complete census was kind of thing that it was 1872, known as in the year 1866 to 67, census was undertaken by actual counting of heads in most of the parts of the country, known as the census of 1870s. However, it didn't cover all the territories controlled by the British, and 17 questions were asked: name, sex, religion, caste or tribe, race or nationality, education and occupation for males only. and separately for females and males, all other things. So, and first complete census was 1881. It started in 17th February. Can you say who was the viceroy at that point of time? Who started it?
Warren Hastings.
What is this? It was pretty old. Lord Ripon. Idea of asking questions separately for males and females. Question on sex was also introduced. Began new questions on marital status, mother tongue, place of birth, infirmities, all were asked. And from Hindus, caste was asked, while for others, religion, sect was asked. From then, it has been conducted each and every 10 years apart, and this was the first break in 1921. Though there were changes in the questions in various rounds and all these things, because it is all these things were developing. So I am not going into that details. You can read it from the slides. I will share it. Yeah, there was a major departure in 1941 when the validity, I mean the post-enumeration check was introduced. In places of schedule, the individual sleep was also canvassed. A number of new questions were introduced on the number of children ever born, number of surviving children, age of mother at the time of the first child, employment opportunity, all those things. Now, from this number of children ever born and the number of surviving children, through some kind of demographic indirect estimation technique, one can measure infant mortality rate at that point of time. So, and then post-independent India, we have the 1951 census, and after that, various questions were introduced and changed over the period of time. So this is all about the census. You can go through it. Particularly in 2011, census was also very important because the question on the separate bedrooms for the married couple has been dropped in the census, and availability of computer, laptop with or without internet facility was introduced. Mobile phone was added. Detailed question on the availability of latrine within premises and tribe, drinking water, all those things were added. And date of birth added to age, name and caste, tribe, detailing of the disability question as a mental retardation, mental illness, and multiple disabilities, all those things were also included. School attendance of the disabled person, adding name of the village town of the migrant, all those things were incorporated in 2011 census. Now in this 2021 census, it will be completely digital, and all the data will be collected in tab or this mobile phone kind of thing, and automatically loaded to the main server. And we hope that data will be available very soon, because census data takes a long time to process if it is collected in pen and paper. So into, say for example, 2011's migration data was available only in the year 2020. So after 10 years, we got the migration data. So it takes a huge time because of the lack of availability of the staff in the census office and all those stuff. For that reason, it was decided that from this year, from this time, it will be collected actually digitally. So from this census, we hope that the data will be made available more easily and more. We don't have to wait so long. And this is one thing. And another thing is that another important thing in 1911 census, 2011 census, that for the first time this data for 5% of the 5% of the household were made available to the research. I mean the raw raw data set. I mean the unit level data set of the 5% of the 5% of the total sample were made available to the researcher, but one has to write a request for that to the census office. Now coming to the sample surveys. Now we have various sample surveys, and one of the important sample surveys is National Family Health Survey. You have come across, I think, the last round, the 5th round. There was news in the newspapers that it has come out. Now, actually, the 5 rounds have been undertaken. My slides is not updated. So 4th round is also over in 2015-16, and now I mean 5th round is also over. Now a range of demographic, socioeconomic, and health indicators are collected in this service, and this infant mortality rate, your rural fertility rate, starting from the all these things are actually collected. Then also there was this DLHS, or the district level household and facility survey. 4 rounds were there in 98-99, 2002-04, 2007-08, and 2012-13 probably. Now this has been discontinued, and only this national health this NFHS will be conducted every 3 years and at the district level. So it will from 2015-16 it has started giving the district level estimates of the various indicators. So this is all about the sample service related to the this demographic indicators. Hope I have completed within time, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So if you have any question, you can ask, and I will share the slide with Jackie.
Yes, I think you'll have to correct the last slide.
Yeah. This was the, I mean, I have not made it up to date. So any question, guys? You can ask me.
Achha, sorry, I couldn't. I mean, I had to make some phone calls. Have you discussed the problem of verbal autopsy with them?
Yeah.
Okay. I had to leave midway. I was talking with Provesh. That's why I was asking.
Okay. So, any question, guys?
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, so I wanted to clarify one thing. So, when you were explaining verbal autopsy, you said that the enumerator sort of verifies the cause of death, like the factors which led to the death, and a team of doctors evaluates the enumerator's opinion, right?
No. Enumerator will note down, I mean, take the account how the death have taken place, how that death had taken place from the nearest kin who has witnessed that death. Because the enumerator is a simple school teacher or simple person. He or she is not a doctor. He or she will just note down, I mean, take the account how that death has taken place. Whether there was any kind of previous disease and that has continued, or there is some other kind of diseases that had developed, all these things. And then a team of doctors with that account will sit and come to a conclusion regarding the death, the cause of death.
So the enumerator will just write down something like that. The person did not have his head and he was slowly dying, and other such details, and then they will sit. The text will be given to the doctors who will ascertain the cause of death.
Right, sir.
Likely cause of death.
Yeah, that suppose that person have some kind of, say, fever, and for that reason, what happens? This verbal autopsy has a problem that also I have told that, I mean, this unknown causes of death comes into play here. I mean, doctors ultimately could not ascertain that, because somebody said that बुखार आया था, खांसी हुआ था, बुखार आया था और उसके बाद 3 दिन बाद मर गया. Okay, now question is that if this is the account, then how the team of doctor will come to an particular conclusion? Because I mean, cause of death is something you need to go into detail, and particularly the chances of misreporting is higher again in this Hindi heartland where this ignorance regarding the death is very high. Cause of death. So for that reason, this verbal autopsy is a good technique, but the thing is that enumerator have to be trained very carefully, as well as how to elicit the information that he or she has to know, and then a team of doctor can also help to ascertain the cause of death. The things are moving. Things have started moving now. Quality has actually improved somewhat. Actually, I was in some expert committee of this verbal autopsy and all these things, and I found their presentation that earlier it was not at that level, but now it is more or less correct up to say 70-75%, something like that.
আরেকটা কি সিস্টার মেথড একটা আছে না? সিস্টার মেথড,
সিস্টারহুড মেথড, ওটা তো তোমার ম্যাটারনাল মর্টালিটি।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ,
ওটা তো হচ্ছে ম্যাটারনাল মর্টালিটি তোমার কারণ হচ্ছে জানতে আর কি, মানে ম্যাটারনাল মর্টালিটির কারণ জানতে তার বোনকে জিজ্ঞেস করা আর কি, যেহেতু সে তার বোন তার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আগেকার দিনে থাকতো আর কি, তা এখনকার দিনে তো আর ওই সিস্টারহুড মেথড চলবে না আর কি। আর কিছু?
No, sir.
Okay, so I will make this slide up to date and send it to you, Jaggi.
Yes.
Okay.
So